They say silence speaks volumes, but sometimes what breaks that silence becomes the cry of a nation. Imagine a government spending your sweat-earned money in faraway lands on projects you've never heard of, while your own streets crumble and schools suffer. Imagine the frustration, the betrayal, the slow burn of truth that refuses to be silenced. The air hung heavy. Not a whisper dared break the stillness. From Louisiana, Senator John Kennedy rose, not with pomp, but with quiet fury. The kind of fury born not from headlines, but from watching a nation slip into disrepair while its leaders smile for cameras. Across the aisle, though not physically present, stood his rhetorical opponent, Representative Jasmine Crockett of Texas, a lawyer by training, a firebrand by nature. Her voice echoed weekly on primetime shows, scorning fiscal responsibility, branding Donald Trump a con man, and glamorizing ballooning budgets. But Kennedy didn't come to play politics. He came to speak truth, raw, unfiltered, and deeply unsettling. Miss Crockett loves to talk justice, he said, his southern drawl calm but unmistakably cutting. But where's the justice in taking a single mother's paycheck in Dallas and shipping it off to produce Sesame Street in Iraq? A stillness fell again. He didn't flinch, didn't pause. Instead, he opened a government ledger, not just to read numbers, but to name names, tell stories, and demand answers. He told the story of Maria, a waitress and mother of 3 in Texas. Taxes cut into her paycheck like knives. Meanwhile, $2 million was funneled to Guatemala for gender reassignment surgeries. He spoke of James, a military veteran turned welder. James fought for freedom, but now his taxes fund Big Bird in Baghdad. Then Sarah, a retired teacher, forced to choose between medication and food, while $1.5 million is spent teaching non-binary grammar in Sri Lanka. Miguel, a legal immigrant, small business owner, and proud father in Houston, now drowning under inflation while $4.7 trillion has mysteriously vanished from federal ledgers. And Emma, a veteran from New Orleans, surrounded by potholes and crime, while $60 million is spent sending condoms to Ghana. Kennedy's voice trembled with emotion as he asked, "Representative Crockett, do you call that justice?" He laid it out cold. $164 million to Gaza groups with alleged terrorist ties. $8.3 million to teach equity in Thailand. $3.9 million to Macedonia for DEI programs. $1.5 million to promote LGBTQ causes in Jamaica. $8 million to rebuild the media in Cuba. $60 million for contraceptives overseas. And then the sledgehammer. $4.7 trillion unaccounted for in federal spending. That's not a clerical error, Kennedy said, his voice dropping to a whisper. That's theft. He didn't ignore Crockett's firebrand style, her flashy segments on Kimmel or Colbert, the viral jabs at Trump, the IQ test dare. He responded with southern sharpness. Miss Crockett wants Trump to take an IQ test? Maybe she should try a budget test first. The chamber chuckled, but Kennedy didn't. The joke was real, the tragedy deeper. She plays games on late-night TV, he continued, but ignores the rigged game that's bleeding this nation dry. Kennedy stood not just as a senator, but as a voice for the unseen. His message was clear. This isn't about left or right. It's about a country losing itself to unchecked bureaucracy. He turned directly toward his colleagues, voice ringing like an alarm. Audit every dollar, flip every agency upside down, and stop letting the American people foot the bill for Washington's fantasies. He issued a public challenge to Crockett, a live debate. No teleprompters, no distractions, just the truth. Let's talk about the $1.5 million you defended in Sri Lanka. Let's talk about the missing $4.7 trillion. Do you dare, Miss Crockett? This wasn't theater. This was a cry for reform, for truth, for a system that honors the people who build it, not betray them. We don't need more speeches. We need action. We don't need more aid to Cuba. We need working schools in Louisiana. We don't need more media campaigns abroad. We need light posts and safe streets here at home. To the truck driver in Houston, the teacher in Dallas, the grandmother in Baton Rouge, your voice matters. Your taxes aren't monopoly money. Demand transparency. Demand audits. Demand leaders who serve you, not themselves. If you've had enough of the noise and the excuses, subscribe
That's
now.
what we owe.
Join us.
And it didn't happen
Because
overnight.
exposing the
It
truth
happened
isn't
because
just
the
a
people
job.
trusted leaders
It's a
who sold them
duty.
out.
The dry
Programs
numbers were
defended
no
by
longer
politicians like Ms.
abstract.
Crockett
They had
who speak of
faces,
justice
names,
while hiding the
lives, like the
He brought
very
up the
people
American
Kennedy
Rescue
vowed to
Plan,
speak for.
a bill Crockett
The
championed.
national debt wasn't just a
$1.9
figure
trillion
anymore.
added to the
It was
debt.
a 36
Then
trillion
came the
pound
Inflation
chain
Reduction Act,
strapped to every
another
American's
trillion
future.
spent.
Kennedy
Inflation,
raised his hand
it kept
as if
rising.
painting the weight of it in
Families
the
cut
air.
groceries,
Picture
retirees
this,
skipped
he
medicine,
said, a
teachers
pile of
picked up
money
extra
higher
shifts.
than the Empire
And for
State
what?
Building, bigger than
Kennedy
the
stared
economy
across
of
the
most
chamber.
nations.
For Sri Lanka to host workshops on non-binary language? He didn't need applause. He didn't expect it. This wasn't for the room. This was for the people, for Sarah, for James, for Emma. He spoke of small towns where roads crumble, of classrooms with broken heaters, of hospital wards packed to the brim. Yet somewhere far off, American dollars built gender clinics, funded media networks in Cuba, handed out diversity grants in Serbia. Who decides this is justice? He asked. Then came the question that silenced even those who disagreed with him. Where is the audit? Where is the trail of accountability? Ms. Crockett, you say you want to investigate President Trump's plane, but where's your outrage over $4.7 trillion vanishing into bureaucratic fog? Don't lecture us on morality while standing on a rug woven with the money of the forgotten. Then he leaned in. His voice grew quiet, more intimate. He recounted a recent meeting in Louisiana. A farmer, old, sun-worn, wise, had looked at Kennedy with tired eyes and asked, "Senator, why do I work from sunrise to sunset and stay poor while Washington lives like kings?" Kennedy felt those words in his bones. He turned them into a final demand. Representative Crockett, stop asking for TV ratings. Start asking for receipts. The American people don't need another speech. They need their dignity returned, their stolen dollars returned, their voices heard. And to the viewers listening, this is where you come in. Don't just scroll. Don't just nod. Demand better. Ask your leaders the hard questions. And when they dodge, remember this moment. Remember these stories. Because if we don't hold them accountable, who will? Subscribe to the channel. Follow the fight. Share this message with someone who's been lied to, someone who's been taxed to death, someone whose future depends on ending this madness. This isn't just politics. This is your paycheck, your street, your school, your America. And it's time to take it back. Don't just take this as another viral clip. Take it as your wake-up call. Because no one's coming to save this country if we don't start saving it ourselves. And that means calling out the waste, the fraud, the smug grins of those who think they'll never be held accountable. It means pushing for audits, not only of where our dollars are going abroad, but who's profiting here at home. It means asking why our public servants become millionaires, why government contracts always seem to benefit the same names, and why our national debt balloons while our bridges crack and schools rot. John Kennedy didn't speak that day just to make a point. He stood in defense of a principle that a government should fear betraying its people. And Representative Jasmine Crockett, she may hold the microphone more often. She may thrive under the studio lights. But if she dares to face the music, face the people, then let it be in full view. No handlers, no spin, just truth, raw and unfiltered. America doesn't need more politicians with sound bites. It needs leaders with backbone. And now, as you finish listening to these words, let them echo. Not just in the chambers of Washington, but in your own heart, in your dinner table conversations, in your ballot box decisions. This is about the soul of a country. Either we demand accountability or we accept betrayal. The choice is ours, and history is watching.